Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on Across the Fence. I'm Jolie Whitney. 2023 has been a year of change for the longest-running, locally produced television show in the country. We've had several new faces on the program. I don't know who they're talking about. But even as these changes have occurred, Across the Fence remains committed in its mission to share stories about people and places of Vermont. Joining me to look back on a few stories he's shared this year is Keith Silva. We don't get to talk on camera very often, Keith, but thank you so much for joining me today.
It's great to be here, Jolie. Thank you for anchoring and holding down the host chair.
Absolutely, and before we jump into some highlights from the last year, first we have a hail and farewell to a member of the Across the Fence team, Carolyn Peak.
Yes, a little bit before your time, but where we are sitting is where the Across the Fence kitchen set used to be, as many of our longtime viewers remember.
It's the first Thursday of the month, and with me are our chefs, Carolyn Peak from Williamstown and Deb.
And Carolyn was a fixture of that set. Former Across the Fence producer Lynn Jarvis would invite several chefs on to join him, and Carolyn would be there every month with advice like, life is short, eat dessert first.
I work on the KISS principle. You keep it simple, sweetie.
There you go.
To borrow from another poet, she was a woman, take her for all in all, we shall not look upon her like again.
And from heartbreak to heartwarming, tell us about the time you worked with Westford Robotics.
We've covered the robotics program in Vermont for several years through 4-H, but as more and more teams have come online, the robotics program has continued to grow. We often hear about the importance of STEM education, and I can't think of a better or more fun way to learn science, engineering, or math than by building robots.
No, they are not fighting robots.
It's about teamwork and learning.
It's like something fun that you can do with your friends, that it's not boring at all.
It's a way for kids to have fun and learn new stuff.
It's the hardest fun you'll ever have.
Mark Droppa is one of the coaches of Westford Elementary's robotics program, where, as the school's trophy case shows, robotics has gained a place of prominence.
My favorite tagline is, we don't use kids to build robots, we use robots to build kids.
2, 3. Yes. Thank you.
It's math with angles and measuring, but it's also kind of engineering in a way, because you're making a robot, then you're making it better and making attachments. So it's both engineering, science, and math.
I'm really good with computers, and I like trying to make something that's once you do it at the end, it all pieces together and you feel very satisfied.
I like best that it kind of shows you how much you can do and how much you're capable of.
There's a lot of failure, but also the failure is just a stepping stone to success.
In addition to learning to fail, these young people are growing up in a world where coding and computers are essential to life.
Every child right now in school is going to be dealing with tech in their life. They're either going to be writing code, managing people who do, or using machines or other systems that are code-based. This is a reality. How do you work with folks in that setting? So watching kids be able to have a peer relationship that is going to build on each other's strengths has to start here.
Across the Fence is unique in a lot of ways. One week I'll be talking to a woman about bats, and then the next week we'll be talking about systematic racism in healthcare. So there's a whole gamut of topics here, and this other topic we're talking about now came to you when you were on your way to a different shoot. Can you tell me about UVM's glassblowing lab?
Yes, one of the Yogi Berra-isms that I like is you can observe a lot by watching. And I was working with a story with UVM STEM ambassadors, leaning against the wall, waiting for this person to show up. And in another room, there was a woman, there was fire, she was turning a glass tube in her hand, and I thought to myself, I gotta know what this is. Turns out UVM has a scientific glass blower to help repair and replace the glass used in its chemistry labs.
Research really depends on glass. And if you really think about history, where would we be without glass? You think of the microscope, you think of telescopes, you think of diffusion pumps, you think of vacuum lines. All of that wouldn't, have happened without glass. So glass is a very important part of research. The items that I'm making are specialized, like this beaker. That is made by a machine. But they have broken the beaker, so I'm going to fix it. But I wouldn't make this. It's It's usually things that are very specific. They want things to fit in a certain way. They want to make, you know, some kind of chemical with it, and they want a certain design. This piece I made for a person. They couldn't buy this anywhere. They just write down the dimensions, and then I go ahead and I make it for them.
And what glass instruments Prosh doesn't make, she repairs.
Glass breaks. If I can fix it, I fix it. If I don't, it goes in the trash.
Unlike decorative or ornamental glass, the glass used for scientific instruments is harder and more heat resistant.
I'm usually working with borosilicate glass or quartz or Vicor, and they're a higher temperature glass. So this torch is a little hotter than those furnaces that you've seen. You know, this can take thermal shock a little bit better. I can take it in and out of the flame multiple times, whereas, you know, the softer glass, you have to keep it hot, and once you're done, you're done.
From reading your scripts over the last couple of months, I know you're not one to pass up on a good pun, or a pun anyway.
Guilty as charged, guilty as charged.
But what was the point of including your story with Lucia Rusconi?
Well, you see, Jolie, Lucia is the captain of UVM's fencing club.
Touché.
I see what you did there.
So Lucia was one of several students you featured on the program. Can you tell me about another student you met, Rachel Elliott?
Yes, I met Rachel on another story, and after talking with her for a couple minutes, I could tell she had that je ne sais quoi that every reporter or producer hopes to encounter in a story because it leads to another story.
What are you going to miss? You're graduating.
My friends. I'm very sad about it. I'm gonna miss the library.
The library?
Yeah, I spent way too much time of my undergrad in the library.
Elliott grew up 3,000 miles away in Oakland, California.
I gardened a lot as a kid. I had my little corner of the garden that I spent time in. And then in elementary school, my school had this amazing garden, which is where I started getting more into it and more in an academic way.
And in an AP environmental science class in high school, it all clicked.
The first time that I had been in a science class where where humans were specifically talked about, and the role of humans in the broader ecosystem was discussed.
And the rest, as they say. Elliott applied to UVM because of the reputation of the environmental studies program and the opportunity for undergraduate research.
I had this vision of myself as this, scientist, professor type. And so part of my decision to come to UVM was the knowledge that undergraduate research is really big here.
Do you see yourself continuing in research?
I think it depends on how one defines research. I think it's relatively unlikely that I'll keep doing lab work. I've kind of gotten to the point where it's really important to have the data to understand problems. That's definitely real, and if you don't do anything with those data, what's the point?
Right.
I think one of the main goals of science is to understand the world. And our understanding of the world is limited if only academics have what's considered like real knowledge, because I think a lot of people know a lot more about their systems than they think they do. To me, the point of science is to understand the world and give people the tools to live better and healthier and more comfortable and more balanced lives.
From gardener to graduate, Rachel Elliott is ready to be the change they want to see in the world.
This is a good time to remind our viewers they can watch all of our programs from the past year online by searching Across the Fence on YouTube or Facebook. For an example, the last story we're highlighting here, natural wine.
Yes, this was a team effort all around. I started working on this story in March, and it didn't air until a couple of weeks ago. No fine wine, as the saying goes.
So yeast actually naturally live on the skins of grapes. If you have grapes and you smush them up and you let them be, usually the yeast will start fermenting that sugar into alcohol, and they'll release carbon dioxide. And eventually that sugar will become completely fermented, and that is the natural process of making wine. These are actually just beautiful.
Grapes are harvested in early fall. What Napic grows are a cross between varietals of well-known vinifera grapes and lesser-known species of Native American grapes.
They're actually crosses between Vitis vinifera, which are the grape varieties that most people are familiar with, so Cabernet Sauvignon, Riesling, Chardonnay, and also Native American grapevines. So if you pay attention when you're driving down the highway or taking a walk in the woods, you'll see tons of grapevines naturally, natively growing in this part of the country. Most of them are Vitis riparia. There's been a lot of research done with University of Minnesota and also Cornell to create these hybrid varieties. So that's what we're growing because they grow well here.
What interests Napic and all winemakers is terroir, a French word that means the combination of factors like soil, sunlight, and climate that give a particular wine its distinctive character.
Wine is a taste of place, so you can grow a certain variety of grape in Bordeaux and then grow it in Napa, and those wines, even though you're growing the same variety, will have very different characteristics because the place that the grape is being grown is represented. So that's the idea.
Speaking of French words, one of the styles of wine Napic has bottled for her brand, Ellison Estate Vineyard, falls into the category of ancestral sparkling wine. As the French say, pétillant naturel.
Over 50% of our production is sparkling, so we're known for our pétillant naturels or pet nats, which are just really vibrant and fresh, exciting.
The excitement of pet nats goes beyond taste. This champagne style of wine requires disgorging, or in French, dégourmand. However you say it, it's an integral and messy step in the production process of sparkling wine. Rob Napic explains.
And so that means the fermentation finishes in the bottle. And so you can see here, there's this little cap, what we call it, and this is sort of the dead yeast and sediment that happens from the end of the fermentation that finishes in the bottle. And so as the fermentation finishes, carbon dioxide gets produced, and it's in a sealed container, and that's what makes sparkling wine sparkle. So we go through the process of actually opening up each bottle, and when we open it up, this cap gets shot out. Most of the sediment gets out there, and then we let it sit upright like this, and it clarifies. And then from disgorging to release date is about 5 weeks or so.
That's our program today. Thank you for joining us on Across the Fence. I'm Jolie Whitney.
And I'm Keith Silva.
Have a good one.